Let's have a listen to how the administration have responded to this. This is President Trump speaking to reporters on Air Force One, saying that the post was not a mistake and that it was about voter fraud.
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things, and I looked at the beginning of it. It was fine. And they had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered. If you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff on the Lion King, and certainly it was a very strong post in terms of voter fraud.
I mean, it was filled with absolute nonsense Gubbins conspiracy about voter fraud, but it was nonsense Gubbins conspiracy that chimed with Trump's previous lies about Biden stealing the election and indeed Obama stealing the election. Have a listen as well to Caroline Levitt defending the post on Fox News.
Well, look, Laura, it was a meme that was posted by a staffer on the president's Truth Social account. It was from a Lion King video depicting, as you pointed out, different Democrats as different animals. I think Kamala Harris was depicted as a turtle in this video meme. The president did take it down. He spoke with lawmakers today out of respect for them, including Senator Tim Scott. The post was removed.
And they did take it down, which I've seen people argue is actually something to be celebrated because it shows that they do still care about the backlash. But I wonder what you think. 03456060973. Well, joining us to discuss this is LBC's Washington correspondent Simon Marks. Simon wrote a piece for The Eye today called "Trump's Racist Obama Post is Just the Latest Nod to the Far Right." Thank you so much for being with us. Lawyer Max Kennedy, who is a Trump critic, argued on Blue Sky that if the president doesn't know that he sent what he's sending out, then that is indisputable proof of gross incompetence, cognitive unfitness, or both. Do you think that this could be the basis of an impeachment?
Well, it certainly won't be the basis of impeachment this side of the midterm elections. I mean, all of these stories, Natasha, kind of come together because those 2 seconds of racist imagery of the Obamas appeared at the end of 59 seconds of absolute nonsense about the 2020 presidential election and the president's continuing claims that he won it and Joe Biden lost it. And all of that is part and parcel of an effort by the president to pollute the midterm elections that are due to take place here in November. He made it very clear over the last week that he's either going to rig the outcome of those elections or simply reject the results if Republicans lose them. And why that matters in terms of impeachment is because the Democrats would have to take control of the House of Representatives to be in a situation to begin impeachment proceedings against the president, for which, of course, there are all sorts of different possible triggers relating to other aspects of the president's behavior since he returned to the White House last January, never mind this social media post. I also just want to make the point that we heard there President Trump and also Caroline Levitt, his press secretary, saying, well, this was just an internet meme about the Lion King. It showed lots of different politicians in the jungle. They were acting as though this was a legitimate piece of political satire. The history of this particular video dates back to last October. The first time it surfaced publicly in a mass forum was when a county committee of the Republican Party in Kentucky, a specific part of Kentucky, put that out on their Facebook page. And there was uproar last October when the entire video, including the racist tropes of the Obamas portrayed as primates, first appeared. So much uproar that the chairman of that local Republican Party pulled the video off the Facebook page and then did something that President Trump hasn't done, apologized for having posted it. So Republicans will have been well aware that this was an extremely controversial, racist, triggering video for many Americans, including some Republicans, which is why you saw this massive Republican backlash from the Senate and the House of Representatives yesterday. So the idea that this was, oh, this has been out there on the internet for a while and it's just, satire about the body politic is completely untrue. They should have known, and may well have known, that this was a video with a triggering history.
And you mention in your piece as well that there is no suggestion that anybody apart from Donald Trump has the ability to post on Donald Trump's Truth Social account. Is that still the case as far as we know?
Well, we know that there are junior staff members that have the capacity to post on his Truth Social account, but certainly in documentary footage that has previously been gathered, pro-Trump sympathetic documentary footage, you can see him there very much controlling the Truth Social account with this young associate. He dictates posts to her, she types them up, he looks them over, he says, yes, that's good to go. There's always been a question about the mountains of material, and it's coming as an ever-increasing tsunami of stuff that he reposts on his Truth Social account. And this, yesterday, was a repost of another account's posting of the video. So there's always been a question about whether he actually watches all of those videos through. And when he spoke there on Air Force One last night, he indicated that he hadn't watched it through to the end. And of course, the racist meme of the Obamas comes right at the very end, that final 2 seconds of the video that seems to pop up. It looks as though there's been one suggestion that this is a kind of an automated reel, that one reel has ended and another one starts, and it was included in the edit of the version of the video that was then posted on the Truth Social account. Now, it's perfectly possible that the president looked that video over, didn't get to the end, and then said to one of his staff members, yeah, sure, put that up. That's good stuff. That explains why I really won the 2020 election. But either way, it's inexcusable. He's the president of the United States. Social media accounts that politicians operate, they all know the world over, are official channels of communication that they engage in on a daily basis. And the idea that he's just, reposting this stuff without really even looking at it and knowing what it contains in granular detail is an extraordinary act of irresponsibility. His critics, like that lawyer that you quoted, contend. And in terms of the substance of the video, or the majority of that video, it was, as you quite rightly say, conspiratorial nonsense about the previous elections being rigged. It does seem to be a pretty straightforward case of accusing your opponents of the very thing that you intend to do, because just this week Trump has said the quiet part out loud about the midterms, hasn't he? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah, he's made it absolutely clear. I mean, we've been on a trajectory over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Within the last month, a couple of times, he said he didn't even think the country should be having to hold midterm elections in November. Why on earth should the Republicans, after he's smashed it in the presidency over the last year, why should they be forced even to stoop to the level of having to fight the Democrats again? That was waved away by Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary at the White House, as being facetious. He was just joking, because apparently it's quite funny to joke about the possibility of cancelling elections. He doesn't have the constitutional power to cancel elections, so now what he's suggesting is federalising the election, putting the administration of the midterm elections in the hands of the federal government, in other words, the government he runs, and taking the power to run those elections away from America's 50 individual states, which is where the Constitution says the power to run elections lies. And, whether he attempts to go ahead with that or not is kind of immaterial. He won't get away with it if he does, because the Constitution is very clear on the issue. What he is doing day after day, week after week, is once again undermining public confidence in the integrity of America's electoral system. And when he was asked this week on NBC whether he is going to accept the outcome of the midterm elections if Republicans lose, Basically, his answer was, in so many words, elections are fine, they're great when he wins them, but when he loses them, they're polluted, they're unfair, they're rigged. And that tells you where we're heading in November.
And I also saw some commentary which suggested that, understandably, Trump is losing the support of the Latina community because of how disproportionately they have been targeted by ICE. And there was some suggestion that ICE agents were going to be placed at election booths and at polling stations to try and deter Latina people from turning up to vote because they were presumably afraid of being unfairly arrested, detained, or experiencing violence at the hands of ICE.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the nightmare scenarios for Democrats as we head towards November. And of course, it is perfectly possible. I mean, the federal government hasn't said here that that's part of the plan, explicitly. But it's perfectly viable to imagine a situation in which ICE might engage in targeted operations at polling stations all over the country, especially given the rhetoric of Donald Trump. And again, he said this in the last week on a podcast hosted by his former deputy FBI director, Dan Bongino. He makes this completely false claim that there is a plague of voting at American elections by illegal immigrants. And he argues, first of all, that shouldn't be happening, and secondly, that it skews the outcome. It's an example of the corruption in elections that he says the country needs to crack down upon. There is no fact-based evidence to support the claim that hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants all over the country are participating in elections. There's no evidence to support that whatsoever, but it could certainly become a reason why the President of the United States might say to the Department of Homeland Security, we need to go and make sure these illegal immigrants aren't feeling so confident about their future in America that they're going to go and show up at polling stations. And were you to see masked agents of the federal government standing guard at polling stations in key swing states all over the country, that would obviously have a really threatening impact on Latino voters and other voters. Any voter that, isn't plainly a white American voter, given the racial profiling that has been taking place by ICE and the Border Patrol over the last several months.
And even if they are white, as Alex Preety and Renee Nicole Good show, if they look like they could be a bit lefty, they may very well have cause to be frightened as well. Simon Marks, thank you so much. LBC's Washington correspondent.